Good evening. This is MMA On Air right here on DallasOnAir.com. I am Charlie Vann. Always with me, my producer, my engineer, Austin Harris. Austin, how are you doing tonight?
What's up, man? I'm doing very well. How are you?
I am good. I'm glad to be back. Show's been on a little hiatus.
Little bit of a hiatus,
but we are back, and we are excited because we have a stacked show tonight. We have two LFA 40 fighters here with us, and actually in studio tonight with us, Austin Lights Out Lingo, who will be there next Friday night. Austin, thank you for joining us. And also calling in at 8:10. He couldn't make it here in studio. He had some things come up, but Ramiz Brahimite will be calling in to also talk about.
One more time on your mic.
We're going to do a little, get some.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. There we go.
There
Okay, yeah, I hear myself now.
So, yeah, we're going to have Ramiz Brahimite call in about 8:10, and we'll all talk to him. And he's also on that card next Friday night. And so we're excited, but we'll get right into it, Austin, man. You know, you got to be pumped. You're back here again at LFA, 3 months removed from your last fight, which I'm going to say because we didn't get a chance to have you in. Spectacular first-round knockout.
Oh, yeah, that was crazy, man. Yeah, I was real pumped after that fight, man. I've been wanting to get back in there so badly.
Was that kind of your, and just kind of, we do want to talk about this fight next Friday, but was that kind of your game plan going? Did you know, I'm going to get this knocked out? I know the fight before that, you were able to get a quick submission.
Yep, I was real mad about the fight before that submission because I would rather stand up all the time, you know. And then that guy wanted to stand up with me this last fight, or he tried to take me down, but then we do at Fortis is work get ups and stuff. So I got up pretty quick, knocked him out. So he didn't try another takedown.
Now your nickname is very fitting, and we've had you a couple times on the show, but I never got a chance to ask obviously the origins because you knocked out, but who named you Lights Out?
Well, I want to say I did, but I was going through a couple lists, and I saw like that name, and I was like, I want that name. That's gonna be my fight name. And then my dad was like, well, you can't really have that because, you know, I haven't knocked anybody out ever. And then I was like, well, it was that one. No, I didn't. And then, you know, and then my first fight, it went 2 rounds. It was a TKO finish, but the guy didn't fall, and he was all bloody, and I won both rounds. The ref was like, I'm calling it because it was amateur.
Yeah.
And then so my dad was like, well, you didn't knock him out. You don't get the name. I was like, so then I went into my second fight, man, put the guy on the ground pretty quick. Yep. And he knocked him clean out.
Although I'll make up, I'll bring up an interesting comparison, though. Chris Lights Out Lytle was really, although a great boxer, most wins submissions, which I always thought was interesting. But either way, you can look at it as a lights out performance.
Yeah, that's the way yeah, exactly. My guillotine finish, you know, lights out, you know.
So you could take that name either way, and it looks like, and now with Lighter with Tyre, you're the sole, I believe, owner of that nickname.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't have the competitor, like, you know, you have Notorious Nick Newell and Notorious Conor McGregor.
Right.
There is only now one
lights out. Yeah, that's what I like about it. Yeah.
And let's talk about next Friday night. I know you're excited to originally go up against another undefeated, you know, opponent. I was saying off air that what was interesting about this original matchup, both 3-0. You both last fight on the same night, which you don't always see that. It's kind of like the stars are aligning. But you're mentioning that this fight's a no-go. You have a new opponent. Just talk about that. I know for you in the past we've had you on, you've gone through this kind of back and forth with opponent change. Just what was going on in your mind when you heard that news that you're not getting a fight? I believe his name's Kenny.
Yeah, Porter. Kenny Porter. Yeah. Yeah, well, man, all I was thinking was like, oh, man, now I got to switch my game plan because I thought this guy was going to be a different kind of fighter. I mean, he's longer, he's lankier, but I'd say I still can stand up with him. You know, I've seen all his fights, and I definitely can take him the way I want. Stand up. That's where I like to take it. But if he wants to go to the ground, I'll gladly go to the ground. You know, it doesn't matter. But I mean, I was mad because Kenny is like, it would have been such a good matchup because we're both 3-0, and like, you know, everybody was just like, oh man, it was a good fight. It was like hyped and everything, ready to go.
You could have heard that Michael Buffer used to say, someone's always got to go. I used to love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I was gonna take his yep. That's it. Yep.
But you still get to keep your main spot on the televised card.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I like about it. Yeah, this new guy's 2-0. He's got a couple wins. Yeah, he lost one time, but I definitely can take him. And man, it's gonna be on that. It's gonna be on TV now. So I'm happy he got to stay on the TV card.
Now, and we'll talk to Ramiz about this as well, get his thoughts. But you're a week away from the fight. For those who not part of the fight game, do not know what's usually going through a fighter's mindset, what's going through your mindset tonight, being just a week out? You're going through the weight cut. You're just thinking about the fight.
I mean, it's a fight, and basically I just go over the tapes I've seen on him, and I just think about him constantly, and I'm like, okay, I can do this, that, and then when the fight comes, and I'm just gonna just not think about anything. I'm just gonna just look at him, know I'm ready, keep my hands up, and just go straight forward at him with all my game plan.
Yeah, do you think a lot of that also because you always seem like very calm. I've even seen you at fights right before you're supposed to fight, chilling, even with the audience. With a lot of fighters don't do that. They like to kind of shut off. Do you think a lot of that has to come with your past experience as an amateur, not just amateur MMA, but you have experience in kickboxing, in boxing, in jiu-jitsu? Do you think all that competition experience plays into your calm?
Oh, most definitely. Like I don't just walk in there just off the street and able to get in front of 1,000 people and be calm. A lot of people get scared, stage fright. Me, I'm just like, never, no, because I've done it so many times in Thailand, here in the USA, a bunch of times, my whole life.
Do you feel like that's the biggest downfall for a lot of fighters, even the ones that experience? You see, they're kind of in that zone, but they're kind of uptight. They're not letting loose. They're not having that relaxation. Do you think that's the biggest downfall for a lot of performances?
Definitely, most definitely. They get in there and they have them jitters, and you should already warm up in the back. You should be already tired a little bit, get that second wind going, and you should just go in there calm and relax and know you got it.
And that's one thing I always bring up whenever I interview one of you guys under Coach Safe is the composure. For years, just the composure you guys have when you walk into that cage, even through the fight. There never feels like an instance of urgency or anything like that, over aggressive, which you can get with nerves. And if you are nervous, nobody can tell. You guys all have great poker faces. Yeah. How much does that come under his tutelage from having that calm surface?
Well, that's the first thing he said to me last night. He was like, you better not get crazy in there. I was like, I got you, coach. No, I'm gonna go exactly what the game plan is. He's all right, and he's constantly on us about that, and he's constantly putting us with people who challenge us. Like the other day, I was sparring Abdul and all those guys, and Miles, and man, they take it to me, and I'm like, man, my guy's not better than either of these guys. I definitely know those guys are definitely going to be champs one day. So
that's a big thing too. If people are looking at MMA and training that, iron sharpens iron. But right now via phone, we'll talk about a teammate of yours right now. We'll bring him in. Ramiz, Ramiz, thank you for calling in.
Pleasure. How's it going, guys?
Oh, it's going good, man. It's going good, and we have Austin Lingo in here, and we're getting into LFA 40 next Friday. We're talking about how calm you guys are, and we've mentioned this even to you before on this show, but how calm you guys are walking to that cage. I was just asking him what's going through his mind a week from his fight. What's going through your mind a week out from your fight as well?
Hey, how's it going, Tyler? I'm sorry we broke up, man. I didn't quite catch that.
Okay, we're going to see if we can get that connection. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I was saying is, we were just asking Austin, since, it's a week out from his fight. Of course, it's a week out from yours. Just your mindset, knowing that, it's right around the corner, right, that fight.
And just razor sharp, I'm ready. I know Austin's ready. The whole team, we're just ready. We're ready to go out there, handle business, and put on electrifying fights.
And we are also talking about, I don't know if you might have got a chance to hear this, but just about the calm you guys there under Coach Safe have every time when you walk to the cage, when you're inside that cage, just that great composure. Do you feel like a bit of that comes from under his tutelage?
Absolutely. He's always worked extremely hard in training camp to put us in extremely stressful situations. And, just make sure that we maintain our composure. So, definitely he helps out tremendously, and, of course, we get backstage, we get in the groove of things, and, it's just a place that we've been to before, and we're literally getting ready to punch the clock and go to work.
And let's go into your fight. You're taking on a very crafty veteran in Evan Cutts, and I know he's on a 2-fight win streak. Although it's been almost a year since he's last made appearance in the cage. Of course, he was supposed to fight back in February against Jaleel Willis, but he pulled out injury. How pumped are you about this matchup, getting to go against such a experienced fighter who's had a big TV exposure under Bellator before?
Man, I'm just extremely excited. This is the test that I wanted, and I got a game opponent, somebody that's ready to go out there. We're gonna compete. We're gonna give the fans exactly what they want. And like I said, I'm thankful for the opportunity again to fight in LFA, to fight on TV, and to fight such a tough veteran.
And you're undefeated. All of your wins have been via submission. I know his last 2 wins have been via submission as well, and I believe he is a BJJ black belt. How intriguing is that you get to put your test as your grappling strength against him, who's a pretty strong grappler as well?
Man, it's phenomenal. I know that no matter where this fight goes, it's going to be exciting, and I'm ready. I'm extremely ready for this fight. And like I said, I'm happy that I get to do it. I get to display my skill set against such a tough veteran.
And also, your training partner Sean Spencer, more than several years ago, had a chance to fight him and had success over him back in Legacy. Have you been kind of picking Sean's brain on what it's like being in there with Evan?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to pick Sean's brain, and a lot of people who have actually trained with Evan before. We all know what his strong suit is, and we all know what he's good at. We all know what the areas that we can attack. So, like I said, I'm just ready for it. I'm ready for the fight, and I'm ready for this challenge. And it's been an honor. It's been just such a pleasure to be able to continuously have Sean in my corner in my training camps, not only for this fight, but just to be able to pick Sean's brain with the UFC, how his road to the UFC was, how it was in the UFC, and just everything. He has that veteran knowledge that he passes on to a lot of his teammates, and I'm a sponge. I get in there and I just soak everything up.
Now, I'm going to ask both you and Austin this question, since both of you are going into your fights undefeated. I mentioned about the calm and the composure. Does that, having that calm and that take away that pressure of having that undefeated under your title? Because that definitely seems like it can bear a little bit, but do you let your calmness kind of block that out? You go first, Austin.
Well, me, no, because I every time I go into the ring, like, I think of it as my first fight again. It's like it's another fight, it's another day. No one knows I've won before, so I got to show them again. I just keep showing them the same thing every time I get in the ring. It's like I stay undefeated because it's a new fight every time.
And what about you, Ramiz?
Absolutely, I approached the fight with the same exact mindset. I think Austin stated that perfectly. Of course, every fight has its challenges, brings its own tasks. But like I said, as long as I'm prepared and as long as I've done what I have to do throughout the training camp, I know I'm ready. It doesn't matter to me, undefeated, and none of that matters. Come fight night, the only thing that matters to me is that I execute my game plan, and I try and do so flawlessly.
And also for both of you guys, because you both, actually, your last fights were together on the last LFA card that was here in Dallas back in February. You guys got that win, and it's been, honestly, since even July, it's been the Fortis MMA train. It's been a very successful train, and once again, a couple of three other of your teammates will also be on this card. Just talk about that unity, that camaraderie back there in the locker room on fight night. What's it like in there? What's the energy like for you guys?
Austin, you go ahead first.
You go.
Okay, yeah. No, well, basically for me, Coach kept telling me to just chill, just sit down, chill. And, I was chilling the whole time, really. I just was trying to stretch. Charles Bird, he stretched me out real good. And then Rashad Coulter, he was warming me up with the mitts right before my fight. But before that, I was just listening to headphones back there, just, chilling, trying to just take my mind off the fight.
What about you, Ramiz?
Honestly, we don't get into the hype or anything like that. Like I said, we go in there, we punch the clock, we go to work, and we do what we have to do. So backstage, I mean, we keep the same MO. We're really chill. We're all getting warmed up, staying mentally sharp until they call us out that we're getting ready to make that walk to the cage. And whenever the time comes, we're more than ready. So that's exactly how it is backstage. It's a calm environment. We try and keep it that way as much as possible.
And for both of you, it's got to feel awesome, having your fellow teammate, knowing you're both going to battle. Even though fighting is technically considered individual sport, it's still a team sport. All you guys spar together, grapple together, iron sharpens iron, and the fact that you get a chance to all be together on that same card, that's got to, feel very special.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one thing, about next Friday night as well, this will be the second time this year that LFA has made its, appearance here in Dallas, which is awesome. It's great that it's given, MMA that much exposure here. For both of you, just talk about still getting to continuously fight for this growing promotion. I mean, this is the 40th card. It launched last January. Put on so many memorable fights so far, even this year, even that card that you guys both were on back in February. I mean, both of you guys had very memorable performance. Just talk about getting to continue your careers with LFA.
Yeah, man, I love LFA. It's like every time it's like I get to invite all my fans to it. It's here in Dallas, so that's a plus automatically. The people are, all the promoters, they all know me. Selling tickets is easy. LFA is a great promotion. I hope to be fighting for that belt by next year.
What about you, Ramiz?
Man, I love fighting for the LFA promotion. It's just such a great promotion. It helps us grow a lot.
And one thing I want to bring, and Austin, you just mentioned about the belt, because I feel one thing that's always, in any sport, what markets a lot is, being undefeated, but also being undefeated by making a statement. And both of you guys, so far in your pro career have stayed undefeated and made statements. Do you feel with a win Friday night? Oh, it looks like we might have got disconnected. Ramiz, you there? Sorry, it sounds like there might be a little connection. Pretty much what I was gonna ask you was, and Austin just mentioned, and you can chime in this as well, about his goal is going for the title. I was gonna mention a big highlight in a lot of sports is staying undefeated and the statement performances you make. You guys both have done that. You do it again next Friday. Do you guys feel like you're one or two fights away from that title shot with LFA?
To be honest with you, I don't really know what's next after this fight. All I know is that I got to go in here to handle business, and of course we're going to take it from there. I know a lot of people, they ask me, they're like, hey, is the UFC next? Is the title shot next? Is the Contender Series next? And honest to God, the only thing I could tell them is that I know what's in front of me right now, and what's in front of me is my opponent next Friday.
What about you, Austin?
For sure, I agree with Ramiz 100%. It's like that guy. That's basically just focused on this fight. People ask me all that same stuff, and I tell them, I don't know. I haven't got a contract yet, but whatever I'm offered, I'll have people review it, my coach, and
Now, do you guys both like to watch the fights when you're there before you go out at all? Or are you just so in the zone, in your own head and that? Do you kind of stay away? I mean, I know, especially having teammates there fighting, is it kind of hard not to look away?
I mean, I listen for the names. That's really all I do. I'll be in the back chilling, and if I hear their name called, I'll just be like, yes, and then, just go back to not thinking that, just relaxing,
I do kind of the same thing. Sometimes I'll just make my way down near the audience, catch a fight or two, and I'll just go backstage and just get right in my zone. Whenever my teammates fight, I do try to catch their fights. I know a lot of people, they have mixed views on this because they say, oh, you don't want to exert too much energy, emotion watching your teammates fight, but in the same token, I feel like I get the energy from their performance. I get their their vibes, and just watching them go out there and do what they do, it definitely motivates me.
Do you guys find more nerves in watching a fellow teammate than going out there yourself?
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely.
Oh yeah.
I think that's got to be the hardest
You know,
for any sport.
I'd rather fight any day of the week than watch my teammates. It's an extremely stressful, emotional roller coaster.
I just remember, back in wrestling, it was always tough. Even whether you were first or last competing, you could handle it, but just watching your teammates go out there, and even though you're fully confident in their ability and they can get the job done, still, you're a nervous wreck. And also, let's go back again on that card. A lot of more stacked fights. Of course, Damon Jackson, he's returning to 145, taking on Jeremy Spoon. You also have your teammate Miles John, who's going up against another undefeated fighter. Kennedy Nzechukwu is also on that card as well. Both of you guys just share your thoughts on their fights and them going into next week.
Oh, they're 100% ready. I've seen them in camp, and coaches push them to their maximum potential, and I think they're just getting ready for the fight right now. That's all they got their mindset on, and I don't worry about them at all.
And Ramiz, what's your thoughts?
I think the same exact thing. All of them are primed and ready to go. Literally, they're just waiting come fight night, and it's truly, to me, it's truly like beautiful to watch all of us like literally hit our strides at the same time whenever we're fighting on the same fight card. Like I said, I do believe in a lot of the energy. So I think a lot of that positive energy, a lot of that mental sharpness is just going around all of us. So like I said, it's just come fight night. That's all we're waiting for.
Now, I want to, outside of this, this has been looming on my mind. It's been everywhere in the news, but I want to get both your thoughts on this because as from a fighter's perspective, and we'll get right back to LFA 40 here, but since I have you on the phone here, Ramiz, I know you're very vocal about the sport. What did you guys think about Raquel Pennington this past Saturday night? She verbally, in between the end of round 4 before 5, says that she was done. I know she had said on Ariel Helwani's show that she had hurt her leg. Of course, we saw how her nose was. She had verbally said she was done to her corner. Her coach said, no, get back out there, get back after it. She later said, she stands by her corner's decision. But, a kind of thing there is there was no advice given even quickly to her on how she could adjust. And then we saw the end result there. Her nose is spraying everywhere and her getting stopped. What are your guys' thoughts on that? From the fighter standpoint, do you think the corner made that right call?
Most definitely not. If you're gushing, if it's like anytime you're hurt and you lost at least 3 or 4 rounds, and you got to change something yourself. You're the only one out there. Sometimes your corner can be yelling one thing, but something else is going on in your mind. You might get the knockout or something. But at the same time, at the corner, it should have been a way better corner. They should have told her something.
I mean, for me, it's just a little bit of it's a double-edged sword, essentially, when you think about it. I mean, you know that your corner is always going to be looking out for your best interest. I don't know. Ultimately, I think it's just case by case, because sometimes, I'm not saying anything against Raquel, but sometimes, a fighter thinks he doesn't have much more, but in all reality, their corner, their coach knows how much more they have, so they want to give them that little bit of push. But like I said, I think it's just a case by case, and it's just kind of rough, because like I said, you have fighters that are like Frankie Edgar that literally, he always tells, I heard him in an interview, he said he always tells the cornermen and the referees that if anything happens, just let him go out on his shield. He doesn't care, because he's getting paid for it. It's just, like I said, it's a very sticky subject to talk about, but I think it's case by case. It just depends on the fighter and their corner, what they agree upon.
How I look at it is, I think it would be one thing if it was a pretty competitive fight for the most part, even if it was like 2 rounds to 1 or that. But the fact that she went back, she's clearly busted up. She hasn't won a round. It's been pretty landslide from Amanda. And the fact that Rocky is one of those that is very tough. She is very, if you watch most of her fights, I mean, she's a battler. And for her to verbally say that tells me something physically is really wrong, to where the 5th round makes no sense. Not because she, is not a warrior of that and she has a quitting spirit or any of that. It's because something's really, really wrong that she feels like she can't continue. She's almost lucky, because I remember there was either someone from the commission or medical set in there, and when she said that, I'm surprised no one took wind of that and like, oh, this is done. Because the moment you tell a referee or a doctor, I know at least from boxing, they end it right then and there. But I don't know. I look at it from, she seemed really, really bad beaten up, and just knowing her past fights, like, it looked like something was really mattered for her to say that. She's just not the type that seems like she's more like that Frankie, like, I'm going to go out on my shield.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think you're absolutely right about that. And I think it just falls back to just a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I think this is definitely interesting. I mean, I've seen both arguments inside. Like, it's not, obviously fair to judge the corner. I mean, they may be in training. The 5th round is where she turns it up, or maybe she needs that pep talk. But, I definitely look at it from more the injury standpoint. Her nose was badly broken. Then, she wanted to say her leg was really bad. That was the real injury. So either way, I think the big thing to look at it is and maybe there should have been even more medical attention brought over at that to kind of step in. I know, just watching from boxing from years, they really take a close look. Even if a fighter hasn't had that much damage, if they're not winning and they're taking more punches, I mean, boxing will stop it sooner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely.
And now we'll revert back. That was just on my mind. I think that's been on everybody's mind. That's been like the main talk, even though there's been a lot of other MMA news. But going back real quick to LFA, it's an exciting card. Once again, you guys both are on getting that main card attraction. Just talk about that, feeling still young in your guys' career, and you're on national television, on Access TV, and I know Dana White's a big fan of LFA, and of course Mick Maynard, and his background. I mean, just talk about that excitement, getting that main card, being on there.
Man, it makes me excited. This is gonna be my first one. Never been on TV, so I'm definitely pumped up, man. Like, I every day, people are like, "What? It's gonna be on TV?" I just tell them, "Yep." Y'all can, and then I'm like, "Well, you still gotta get tickets and come see it live."
Yeah, I'm not right. You gotta get tickets from us.
Well, and also because I love Access TV, but if you have regular cable, it's not on there, so you do need to come into version. But that's for Ramiz, is this your 3rd time on the main card for LFA?
Yes, sir. Third time on the main card, televised portion, and I can't say enough good about it. I can't say enough good about the promotion. I love the exposure. I love the ability to go out there and perform, not only in front of the crowd, but also in front of a nationally televised portion of the main card. And it's small little stepping stones that I'm taking towards my ultimate goal. And a lot of people, they get too caught up in, oh my God, I want to be here, I want to be at the top level of the UFC, and then they essentially forget, that these are the necessary steps that you have to take in order to continue your career progression. And sometimes, it's beneficial to have future goals, but in my mind, I'm looking at what I've done. I'm living in the present, and I'm also preparing for the future. But make no mistake about it, I'm truly enjoying the process, because I'm well aware that, there's going to come a time, a day and age when I'm not going to be fighting anymore. So I don't want to look back and just be like, oh my God, what happened? This was all a flash. I truly want to sit back, enjoy, and have some great memories.
Now, for both of you, all of your fights have taken place here in the Metroplex in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yes, yeah. For all my MMA fights, yes, definitely. Yep.
And what about you, Ramiz? All your fights have been in Dallas.
My early career, one of my amateur fights was in Arlington. Then I had debut, my amateur debut was in Louisiana, and my professional debut was in Abilene. But besides that, the 5 of my professional fights have been here in the Metroplex.
And so are you guys both, excited maybe at the chance of eventually getting to travel more for fighting, or do you like to fight here in the home territory?
Me, personally, I love fighting my hometown, but, it's like it's comfortability, just getting to know your city and being able to, it's easier to fight in front of everybody but I hope one day that I'll be ready, that I will definitely be ready, that I'll be able to fight in Vegas, wherever they want me to fight, do anything,
And what about you, Ramiz?
I love fighting in front of a home crowd. I love fighting, basically home. I love the rituals that I have, and get to eat the home cooked meals. I get to eat what I want, and everything is just it works like clockwork. So I love that, but I also I'm ready to travel. Like getting the experience to travel to London and going to Vegas last summer, and watching what all my teammates go through whenever they travel abroad or in country. Is just something amazing as well. Like I said, I just love the process. I love everything that is happening, and I truly enjoy it. And to me, it doesn't matter, regardless to home or fighting away. It's just a pass.
Well, Ramiz, you talked about, and I'll get your opinion on this as well, Austin. You talked about, competing in Abilene and Louisiana. Do you like going to hotels? Do you mind hotels during competition? Because obviously it's a different kind of stay than like a vacation, different kind of mindset. Do you mind hotels? And same with you, Austin. Just even outside your MMA.
It's funny. I don't mind hotels at all, as long as they're nice. The ones that they had us staying in Las Vegas were exceptional. They're perfect. They're great. But the ones that I've stood in early in my amateur career and my pro debut, not so much. I understand that they were smaller promotions, so it wasn't top of the line, where we would be staying at. But like I said, as long as it's a nice hotel and it's in a good part of town, I'm excited. I'm happy about that.
So I take it there were no mints on the pillows when you got there.
When I was in Louisiana and Alexandria, they had us stay at a hotel, and there was like cigarette burns on the bed, and
that's perfect. That's great right there. Actually, I think I know where you're talking about, because I've stayed there. Was it for the Global Fighting Alliance?
Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly.
Man.
The first ever MMA card I think the second I've been in person, but I was there with Derek Compos's amateur fight, and we stayed in his hotel room. Oh man.
Yeah. That's all that needs to be said. It's definitely something I wouldn't wish upon my worst of enemies.
I think it's the one where you look out the window, you see the river, but I don't know. It's not like looking at the Hudson or that.
I didn't have much of a view either. I just saw literally. I just saw the rooftops.
It's definitely a battle there. Just for comfortability. What about you, Austin? Any stories? Any cigarette burns on the pillows or
Thailand? We stayed at the nicest hotel there when I was in Thailand when I fought Muay Thai, and the nicest hotel was like a 2-star hotel over here. It was just not. It wasn't that nice. It was nice, but the people. I don't know. It was pretty nice. But they had cots that folded out of the wall, and I don't know, it's uncomfortable beds and a lot of stuff. But it didn't affect the way I fight. It just fuels the fire, I like to think.
I think, if you can have an interesting story, that always adds.
No, absolutely.
You got to have something to make you uncomfortable, especially if you go in there, you just, knock out the guy, cement the guy quickly. You got to have some kind of story, So, but nothing's like coming home, getting to wake up in your own bed and then go to a fight, go to competition. I'm sure it feels a lot better and safer. No. And and you have running toilet and shower and that.
Yep.
Yeah, and you don't got to worry about cigarette burns.
You don't have to worry about cigarette burns at all. But other than that, also, I want to mention, getting outside of LFA here tomorrow night, I like to always pick your guys' brains about the other fights. Speaking of the welterweight division, which you're part of, Ramiz, tomorrow night is Damian Maia, Kamaru Usman. What do you guys think about that matchup?
And I got Kamaru Usman. I think, of course, you can never sleep on Damian Maia's grappling ability, but I do feel that the deciding factor in this fight is going to be Kamaru's a lot more striker savvy, and he does have the counter wrestling, and he has the ability to wrestle too. I just think he has way more weapons in his use than Damian Maia does.
What do you think, Austin?
I mean, Usma, but I mean, I went for Damian Maia in his last fight and he won. So I mean, I don't know what to think, you know, because I do like Damian Maia because he's a jiu-jitsu guy and I love jiu-jitsu. So it's like I always want to see a sick submission, like a Peruvian necktie or something cool, you know.
It's an intriguing fight mainly right now because, I mean, Damian is taking this, I think, on 2 weeks' notice against Kamaru Usman. He was Kamaru was supposed to fight Santiago Ponzinibbio, which that would have been a cool matchup right there. Damian Maia is a very crafty veteran. Like you said, his jiu-jitsu, I mean, it's world-class. I think his last fight against Colby Covington, like he said, wasn't the best showing for himself. Yeah. He tried too hard on the striking. I mean, he said this on UFC Unfiltered, and I think that was true. But this is still a guy who, if it goes to the ground, which Kamaru is a great wrestler, it's dangerous territories. But the question is, will Kamaru even want to take it to the ground? I think a lot of guys have had success against Damian Maia, have kept it standing in that striking. That eye of his gets swollen pretty quick. Tyron Woodley was able to do that. Even Colby Covington had some success. So if I was Kamaru, I would turn this into a kickboxing fight.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Oh, easily.
And especially because, and I think Kamaru took this fight. It's a good, respectable fight. He said, I look at other people in the division, what made sense, and give the guy a benefit of doubt. I mean, 170 is kind of at a standstill. Tyron's not fighting right now. We have this, I don't know what to make of this interim title fight between Colby Covington and RDA. Shouldn't be an interim title fight. That's neither here or there. But Kamaru is definitely the guy a lot of people don't seem to want to fight. But you got to give props to Damian Maia. Whatever happens tomorrow, he took the fight that apparently nobody else would take.
Oh, yeah, definitely Damian Maia because he's not a stand-up guy
Well, we just saw Vitor retire. Obviously he was at the end of that knockout. Do you think if Damian loses tomorrow night, and this is for both you guys, do you think that's the last we'll see him? Do you think we'll see him again? I mean, he's 40 years old. I think he'll definitely be in the Hall of Fame just based on the fights he's had. Doesn't matter that hasn't been a champion. The guy has been, has fought twice for a world title. When he's not fighting for a world title, he's almost dominating his division, both at either middleweight or welterweight. What do you guys think? Do you think if he happens to lose, don't want to count him out, but he's 40 years old. I know that career is, that end is coming sooner than later.
I mean, I think he's made a name for himself already to be in the Hall of Fame and everything. And I didn't know he was that old. I thought he was younger. But, man, I think he'll fight for another year, maybe another year or two. What
about you, Ramiz?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to, think what a fighter's thinking. But like I said, I did hear an interview of Damian Maia saying that he was going to fight out his contract, and I believe he has 4 fights left. So I think he said he was going to retire in 2019. So, it could definitely happen. Like you said, the guy is without a doubt a Hall of Famer. And, he's put on some amazing performances, and like I said, he in the performances that he's on, he's just absolutely dominant.
Well, another thing to look at him, too, it's not like he's getting knocked out. The Tyron Woodley fight, I wouldn't say necessarily super dominant. That's not a knock on Tyron. It was a smart, safe fight, and then even with Colby Covington, I didn't see it as a domination at all by Colby Covington. I saw it as a tactical errors by Damian that was out of character and maybe frustration in himself trying to do something that just wasn't working. But it's kind of like that domino effect. You kind of get caught in that quicksand of a bad game plan. But he's not getting put away. He's definitely not choked out. His last knockout loss was back in 2009 against Nate Marquardt. So, the health factor there seems like he can at least fight out his contract.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And, sometimes it looks like he's taking a lot of damage, but like you said, he does a great job at avoiding it.
And, of course, what's your guys' thoughts on, I mentioned Vitor Belfort. Lyoto Machida, that's I don't think he's got very long, honestly. He's kind of loomed at that. He wants the Michael Bisping fight. Still has the Karate Kid moves. That was a flashy front kick, knockout. It was just deja vu of Anderson Silva, Vitor Belfort. I think it's definitely a right move that Vitor, hanging up. I mean, his last several fights have been knockout losses, although he had that close decision win over Nate Marquardt. Other than that, he's been on some pretty vicious knockout losses. But then what do you think about Machida? I mean, he's 40 as well, and he's still he's still got those ninja moves.
man, yeah, that front kick, I saw it, man, I was just like, oh my gosh, it came out of nowhere. He just lifted it right in the jaw, like right in his face. I was just like, oh my gosh. I thought Vitor, he was coming in with the hands and the power, but he wasn't throwing enough, so I knew something was going to happen. If Machida, I didn't know he was going to do that. I was like, yes.
What do you think, Ramiz? Do you think Machida stays?
I don't know. I mean, it's really tough. I think Machida, I personally think it would be great for Machida to ride out on his horse, fight Michael Bisping, and they both retire. Of course, he knows what's in his best interest. But he's coming off of 2 wins right now. If he takes on Mike Bisping and he does happen to beat Michael Bisping, I think that would be a great retirement fight for him. He just he goes off on his rides off into the sunset.
Yeah, that's a competitive fight. I've always been a fan of Bisping and his style. I think his style does play in well with Lyoto Machida. It's a style that I think the reason why Machida wants that fight, it's perfect for Machida. Machida has problems with really strong wrestlers, grapplers, and that who can strike as well. Obviously, saw that with John Jones, but just in general, I think even Luke Rockhold and that. I think Bisping is that back and forth style. And maybe he thinks he could be at the end of one of those kicks as well. Although at least Vitor got to keep a tooth. Randy Couture, that was last time he threw a kick like that. But yeah, I think that fight between Bisping, if Bisping wants it, he said he's retired. I think with air quotes, quotations around that, meaning, if it's the right fight. I know Tavares wanted Bisping, but Bisping didn't want that fight. But Machida may.
Man, they should do it in They should do it in Manchester.
Yeah, that would be big.
Oh, very big. As his retirement fight? Oh, yeah.
Well, and both those guys are Hall of Famers. Machida, you definitely got to put in the Hall of Fame. Just, being a former champion at 205, the highlight reel finishes he had. Same with Michael Bisping, Ultimate Fighter Season 3 winner. The dominant victories at both 205 and 185, and being the middleweight champion. Both those guys are definitely going to be Hall of Fame bound. So that'd be a good final fight for both. I don't think Machida, go out, 3-0. A lot of fighters do not retire. I think Lytle was one of the last ones to really truly retire on a victory. It doesn't normally happen. It usually happens what we just saw with Vitor Belfort.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And speaking of retirement, I'm sure you guys have both heard this, but I also want to get your thoughts on Chuck Liddell says he's coming out of retirement, and him and Oscar De La Hoya are going to work together, and they're going to try to make the Tito Ortiz 3 fight happen. What are your guys' thoughts on this? And I'm saying this because, I'm sure, Chuck's got a lot of confidence. But as far as activity goes, Tito has had the most activity. The last time we saw Chuck Liddell was in 2010. That's 8 years ago, and he got knocked out by Rich Franklin. Last time we saw Tito Ortiz was last year, and he submitted Chael Sonnen. So, what do you think? Do you think this fight's gonna happen? And if it does, what do you think the scenario is gonna be?
It's a possibility.
I really hope not.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ramiro.
I hope not. Listen, Chuck Liddell has had such a decorated career that there's no need for him to come back at all. I just think it's foolish, that it should even be in talks, and then for him to call out Johnny Jones and say that he was going to fight John Jones. It's crazy because I know we sit here and we're like, oh, it's a big joke, let's laugh. But then it ends up happening, and then it's like, oh, no, this this is not how it should be going down.
Well, do you think it's, and I've heard this, could it be a money thing on Chuck? You know, he got released by the UFC when the new company, you know, WME took over. You know, he had kind of a role in the business. You don't really see him in movies much, making appearances. You know, he's not, well, I know he was on like Celebrity Big Brother, but, you know, nothing that's a big payday like his fights have been. Do you think it could be possibly a money thing? I mean, why else come out? I mean, I know he's competitive, but I mean, it's been 8 years. If there was any time to make a comeback, it would have been within a year of his last retirement.
I mean, it's definitely got to be a money thing, and it's unfortunate, you know, because you never want to see a lot of the old veterans who've actually had so much success in their fight career and have success not only inside of the cage, outside of the cage, and also with monetary funds. But, you know, it pains me to see that. You know, they're the veterans, they're the guys who paved the way for a lot of us up and coming and new fighters. And, you know, you never want to see them go out like that.
Well, in his last 3 UFC appearances were knockout losses. Rashad Evans, which was the shot that was heard around the world. Shogun, which is a quick finish, and then, of course, getting knocked out by Rich Franklin. Although he was winning that first round, still was he walked into that KO. And Tito actually did not have a bad Bellator run. He had some some pretty good-looking performances for the most part. I mean, especially his submission over Alexander Shlemenko. So between the two, and Chuck's 48 years old. And I like Chuck, but he's 48 years old. He hasn't fought in 8 years. His last fight was a vicious KO loss. And he wants to take on a guy who's already got wins. I mean, there's really nothing to gain from this fight other than just say, Tito can't win a fight for me. But it could turn the opposite.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, Chuck might get some power from De La Hoya. De La Hoya, man, I don't think he lost that fight with Pacquiao, but I don't know. I've always wanted him to run it, you know, go again. But, you know, I don't know. He could possibly learn, or he could possibly go in there and do some damage.
I think I would kind of like to see Chuck. I wouldn't mind seeing Chuck on the promoter side. Like, I was kind of like, oh, yeah, him and De La Hoya create a promotion. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh,
or if he teams up with Bellator, you know, they give him a job or something like that. I mean, I even would love to hear him kind of commentate a little bit or something, or stay in the coaching seat. I've heard he's a great coach, but seeing him back in the cage, and oh man, Vitor is entertaining the Legends League. Do not let Chuck. I'm sure Chuck might have heard that too. Like, I'll do the Legends League. You know, we don't need to see that. It's just like when we saw Ken Shamrock come back. You just don't need it. You know, so that's it's been an interesting week in MMA news. So
Yeah.
So, we shall see. That's how I like to say. I know Dana White's not too thrilled with that. He's like, I hope that happened. But speaking of Bellator, real quick, we might be coming down here to the bottom of the show, right? We got 10 minutes here. I don't see the time, so we got 10 minutes. How about Bader versus King Mo this past weekend? You know, pretty quick finish for Ryan Bader. He will advance in that Grand Prix tournament. He'll take on Matt Metrione. But what did you guys think about that fight?
Man, it's a really hard fight to watch. I like King Mo. I think he's a great competitor. I think he's done a lot of great things inside the cage. Man, it was just the shot came at a weird angle. Definitely not one a lot of fighters would have been able to catch in time. But, I mean, it's a part of the sport, you know. Sometimes it just happens that way.
Yeah.
You get to see it, Austin.
Yeah, I saw it, yep. And, you know, he got caught. That's what happens, you know.
Bader looked big. He looked like the bigger fighter. Obviously, he's probably putting on the more muscle because, I mean, you are fighting, you know, heavyweight division. And Mo looked a little slimmer. I did see someone's comment, maybe you'll see Mo go down to 185. I don't know if he can make 185 or not. He definitely looked a little slimmer in that performance. What did you think, Ramiz?
Yeah, I mean, you know, don't forget that actually at 185, well, it was at 205, if I'm not mistaken, King Mo has a win over Gegard Mousasi.
That is very intriguing, and maybe we can see that run. But I mean, here's the thing. I kind of feel like you got to give everyone the benefit of the doubt that's not a heavyweight in this tournament, and it shouldn't take them out of their rankings in 205. King Mo is always dangerous and explosive, and like you said, we didn't get to see much of that fight. It was a clean shot, quick, but maybe if we see that fight happen again, maybe it'll be a different scenario, longer it lasts. They can kind of go and say they're 1-1. Mo had a tech fall in college over Ryan Bader, in wrestling. So that kind of has that storyline there. Now Ryan Bader has a first round finish over King Mo. Maybe down the road at 205 for the Bellator at light heavyweight, maybe we'll get to see that fight happen again, and maybe we'll go a little bit longer. I do think the longer the fight goes, the more experience from King Mo plays into his favor.
Most definitely, yes. Yeah.
And what do you guys think, real quick, about the Bader-Matt Metrione matchup? That is happening next. Metrione's a legit heavyweight. However, he's had trouble with stronger wrestlers in the past, stronger grapplers. Bader's one of those guys. He's super explosive. We just saw that. And he kind of threw out a jab out there and told Metrione, although they're buddies, he's like, get to wrestling.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Ryan Bader does definitely take that matchup. He's a very big heavyweight, a light heavyweight, but even at heavyweight, he's big, and he's a very tall guy as well. I definitely do see him giving Matt Mitrione a lot of trouble. Like I said, I understand Matt Mitrione's a natural heavyweight, but in the same token, Ryan Bader does have the wrestling credentials to be able to neutralize Matt Mitrione.
Do you guys think he's the dark horse to win it all now?
He very well could be.
Yes, sir.
And here's my prediction right here. I do think Bader wins this. I think the wrestling, it could go decision too. Matt Metrione's a tough guy to put away. Depending on how Fedor, Sonnen goes, I know people are laughing at that match, but here's the thing. The last strong wrestler that went up against Fedor had some pretty good success. That is Dan Henderson. That was a 205er. Bader's is a lot bigger than Dan Henderson. I think hits as equally as hard as Dan Henderson. I think Fedor could be, don't get me wrong, Fedor is considered one of the greats, but I look at history, I look at what the stats are, his losses, and especially in recent years against those powerful wrestlers, those strong, Bader's got it, and I think Bader's actually a really bad matchup for Fedor.
Yeah, no, I definitely do think so too. Of course, Fedor has that one punch knockout power. But, it's just Ryan Bader has the youth.
He's got the youth, and here's the thing. I think everyone's said this about Fedor. He could be a 205er if he wanted to cut that weight. He's actually a smaller heavyweight. He looks smaller in there against Frank Mir. But, he's so quick, and you can't count him out. He's a Sambo champion and that. But you guys know this, wrestling with some beasts there at force. There's nothing like a strong wrestler on top of you. You could go with any other heavyweight in the room, but you have, one of these strong wrestlers, these all-American wrestlers. It is tough, and it's tough to deal with. And if you don't train with someone that has that strength, it's hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time. Wrestlers, man, it's, like you said, you hit the nail right on the head, man. It's very tough having to go up against them. They know about that grind, and it seems like their gas tank is unstoppable.
And we do have 5 minutes, so I want to mention one more matchup because it's going down next week, and since we're actually going to be there covering you guys there at LFA 40, so we're excited about that. But the big fight of probably one of the biggest fights, I think, of the year, could be fight of the night, definitely could be possibly next in line for the 170 title behind RDA and Colby Covington. Darren Till, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Talk about that matchup. Striker versus striker. Darren Till has been on a tear, and we know Wonderboy's his resume. So, what do you guys think about this matchup?
I look at both of them as powerful fighters, but Darren Till, he has been on a streak, but Steven, he just came off a knockout, so I think he's gonna come in there with some fury on him, definitely some fire behind him.
What about you, Ramiz?
Man, you cannot count Stephen Thompson out of this fight. It's an extremely hard fight to pick. Of course, I want to see some new blood. I definitely want to see Darren Till be able to pull it off. But, I mean, either one of these matchups is either one of these guys winning, it still brings excitement to the 170 division. I could definitely see if Kamaru Usman does pull off the win against Damian Maia, I could see Kamaru versus either Till or Wonder Boy.
I like that. Quick prediction. I'm just going to say I got Thompson. I like Till, but the pressure of being there in Liverpool, that's a huge stage, going up against a very high-level kickboxer who's very elusive. Nobody moves like him in that division. He can definitely take a shot. I mean, Till's a big guy, but I think if there's anybody who can get through that obstacle and win, I got Thompson, possibly either late stoppage or decision.
Yep. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But of course, you could. Darren Till definitely does have that power that he could put Thompson away.
I think if Till wins, he'll have to win in the first 2 rounds. Later rounds, we haven't seen him in a full 5 rounds. We haven't seen him go 5 rounds. He did defeat Donald Cerrone in that main event, but that was a first-round stoppage right there. So I think, the later rounds favor Thompson. And Thompson sometimes could be a little slower starter because he likes to get your rhythm. He's a great counter striker. And he may frustrate Thompson, too, with that point karate. Make him miss a lot, which will exert the energy of Till being a big guy. Apparently he walks around, I think, over 200 pounds. That's what he says. So if that's true, he may throw a lot, and that excitement of the crowd may make him throw a lot of shots that he may miss.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's a very fun matchup. I think they did a great job pairing the two up together.
Well, Ramiz, I want to thank you for calling in tonight, and best of luck next Friday night. What do you want to say to your friends, family, and fans?
I want to tell everybody, that supports me, thank you guys so much for your support. Every time I step into the cage, I do it for you guys. You guys are my motivation. You guys are my drive, and it's always great to get in there and do what I do on national television and in front of my friends and my family. And I can't wait. Me and the rest of the team, we're going to go in there. We're going to put on electrifying performances, and I can't wait to do it.
And Austin, what about you?
Yeah, thanks to all my fans watching, listening right now. They support me, buy T-shirts and all that stuff. And, thanks to the family, most definitely. And, I'm definitely going to put on a show for them next week in Dallas.
And we want to once again thank both of you guys for joining us here tonight. Best of luck. And we also want to thank our sponsor, Fight Fit Lifestyle, for always backing this show, supporting the show. Go to fightfitlifestyle.com. Check out all the apparel and gear. Summer is around the corner, so definitely grab one of those awesome tank tops there. Fight Fit Lifestyle. They're doing big things. And check out their radio show every Friday at noon. So once again, this is MMA On Air. I'm Charlie Vann, Austin Harris. We will see you next time.